at a time, and then that's it. So first of all, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Congressman Nadler. Many, many years ago, I started a thing when I was chair of government relations in the Residents Association. I would invite some of the local politicians over to have some little meet and greet kind of thing so everybody got to know one another. I've been off that for about 15, 20 years now, but keep doing it anyway. So Matt called and asked if I would do it, and I said sure. And what we usually do is small introduction, and then turn it right into a Q&A so you guys can get to know one another. One thing that I want to point out, because I'm not sure if you know about the structure of our local political structure, let's say. We are owned by, the island itself is owned by the city, but it's owned by the city, but it's leased to the state for 99 years. The lease is up in 2068. What that does is eliminate a whole level of local government from us, because the city has no say in anything that goes on. So land use decisions, budgeting, any of that stuff goes right past the city and up to the state. So we don't get to elect the people who make those kinds of decisions. They're New York State appointees by the governor. So it's a little unusual, and that puts us in the mayor has no appointees? The mayor has, he can recommend to, but then the governor has to approve them. And
they're not elected.
No, none of them are elected, which is the real clever. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Katz now.
Excuse me.
I think get started, but I have one request from everybody as the hostess. Do not leave all this cake for me. Take it on the way out if you're not going to eat it here, okay?
Margie, she just want to tell everybody that...
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Rick is our local blogger, and Rick usually films everything so that anybody who couldn't be here will see it on his blog. Just want everybody to know that's happening, okay? Any issues? And I have more chairs here.
First things first, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here. While most of our political issues are on the state level, as you know, Carolyn Maloney represented us for 20 years. With a first-name basis with her, we hope to establish that with you. What I'm looking at here is about 300 years of island activist experience.
No one looks that old.
Cumulative. What we've done here is what we've had to do because there was nobody else to do it. So we did it ourselves. There are people here, and what I'm going to ask us to do first is to go around the room and identify ourselves and give some credentials on why we're all here. It matters because the decisions that are made by people who do not elect matter. So the kind of difference that you can make as our congressman matters. So that being said, I think Margie gave a really good place in what our issue is in terms of the lack of democracy, essentially. I mean, I'm a newcomer. I've only been here 34 years. And in that time, we've had, what, 14 or 15 REOC presidents and CEOs. None of them live here. None of them have skin in the game. None of them care. They are all carpetbaggers, to coin a phrase. So we've had to take that on ourselves, and we've had some successes. And Joyce can talk about the redistricting.
Liz Kruger is the state senator?
Correct.
Yes. And the assemblyman?
Is Rebecca Searise.
Rebecca.
Liz is new. I mean,
we should ask the two of them to introduce legislation to require that the chairman of REAC be a resident of the island.
Been there, done that. Over again.
Got past Governor last time.
Yeah. What we started with on REAC, which, by the way, was created when the Urban Development Corporation went under in 1984, was with a statute called the Unconsolidated Laws of the State of New York from 1984, if you keep the score. Some of us have memorized that because it has been abused so badly. The board of directors is supposed to be 9 people. Anybody know how many members are there now?
There's short 3 seats, right?
Short 3 seats. We went to George Pataki back in 2002 and said we don't have democracy here. He changed the law to require that board to be a majority of island residents. And we created a mechanism, a referendum, through the Resident Association to elect people that the community wanted. And at one point, 7 of the 9 members of that board.
Wait a minute, so Kentucky passed legislation to require elections?
Yes,
No,
but
not elections, not elections.
Only
not residents.
require a majority of
Majority, right.
residents of the board.
Okay.
Elliot Spitzer came to us and said, listen, why don't you create some mechanism whereby we can elect people? We did. David Patterson appointed them. At one point, 7 of the 9 members were island residents. The other 2 were ex officio. So we had
So
success.
we did hold elections.
But they're not elected by us to serve on the board.
That's right, thank you.
They're elected by us, they're our people that we
Choices.
want, but they're appointed by the governor, so they serve at the pleasure of the
Let
governor.
me just say, I'm with Congressman Nadler, I'm his district director, my name's Rob Gunn. We have experience, Congressman for 30 years representing the Battery Park City Authority, you know, Battery Park. Battery Park City has the
Same
same
thing.
exact
Exactly.
issues of
Yes.
no representation, you know,
Right.
exactly the same, and there's been lots of legislation to do that, and to no avail either. So it's very similar.
I think
You know,
at one point we had tried to organize with them. I think we tried to talk to them
Yeah, I think-
about coming together as 2 of the same kinds of groups to try to put pressure together, and they were not interested, as I recall, or they,
Right.
I don't.
Can I just ask, can we go around the room first and just have it, and then we can talk about this much more too.
Okay.
Let
So-
me just say that the efforts that we made to incorporate the community ended with Andrew Cuomo. We put together an election because the statute required that there be new people every 4 years. We sent in the results of our election. We didn't even get the courtesy of a reply. That's where we are now.
Have you corresponded or talked to Governor Hochul?
No, I mean,
Actually, Rebecca has.
yeah, but we haven't.
Rebecca has spoken to Governor
But we
And-
haven't, and we would love to. We would love to sit down with her as we're sitting with you and give her the skinny on what's going on here, because it's complicated. Now, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, let's
We
go
should
around the room so we, you know.
And starting with that woman who I've never seen before in my life, my wife.
Well, I've worked with Margie and Matthew and Linda and Joyce, and there's a whole there's a whole group of people here who worked very, very hard. We created an election process that was absolutely clean. We did it twice for people, members of the community, to put their names forward to be members of the REOC board, and then, as Matthew said, those names, because we can't obviously put people on the board ourselves as a community, those names were sent to the governor's office, and the governor does thumbs up or thumbs down. And some of our people, I think the first time we had the elections, we actually filled the board.
These guys.
Yeah. And
Okay, but no, I wasn't
okay,
elected.
okay.
Oh, but now we're just going around names
Okay,
and.
so I'm Sherry Holstein, I'm with that man over there.
Howard Poldy. I'm a member of the REOC board. I happen to be nominated in the first go-round, and was one of 5 residents who were placed as a result of that election. That was back in 2009.
When?
2009.
Yeah.
So I've been on the board since. Under statute, my term is expired, but I remain in the seat until replaced. And I haven't been reappointed. There have been no reappointments that I know of.
People
Why
just
don't we
sit
go
there.
Sanjeev and then back down around this way?
I'm Sanjeev Tandon, and I'm a board member of River Cross, this building.
Board member of who?
This building.
River
This
Cross
building.
Margie is the vice president of the board, so we work closely together.
I'm Ellen Pollaby, his wife. Howard's wife. I have done a bunch of different activism on the island, and currently I'm on the board, what is it called, the Cornell Task Force, Cornell Construction Task Force, and the current chair of the Community Coalition that was set up to negotiate with Cornell to get a community benefits agreement. Matthew, Joyce, Christina, who else? Raise your hand if you're here. Linda is on that.
Okay.
Linda's on that. Oh, Linda, sorry. Linda, all were on that board, on the community coalition. So there's a lot of things going on the island, a lot of activism. And unfortunately, the activism we would like is to be on, you know, to have people elected to the re-up board. That hasn't happened.
Kim?
Hi, Kimberly Ellis Rogers, resident of this River Crossings Co-op. I've been a resident of Roosevelt Island since 1976. Prior to that, from my early childhood, I grew up in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Thank you.
Also Crown Heights.
And she's an attorney for immigrants. Tell us. And she's an attorney.
Okay, yeah, I represent immigrants applying for political asylum and also like family relief. My client base is from China. Thank you.
Okay. Barbara?
Hi, I'm Barbara Parker. I've been on this island about 40 years, and I'm now living at 460 Main Street, which is the newest building that has been built at Riverwalk. I'm part of the board of directors for the Main Street Theater and Dance Alliance, and I'm also part of the subcommittee that we formed for 460 Main Street for the residents.
Barbara, you might mention that 460 Main Street is affordable housing.
Right. It's the newest and the only affordable housing that related, Hudson related.
Related?
Right, related.
Southtown.
Yeah, Southtown.
What's the mix? What was the mix?
Can you guys speak up? They can't hear you in the back.
What was the affordability mix on the building when the related built it? 80-20 or more 80-20?
Yeah.
No,
This was 100%
affordable.
market. There were
Right.
9 buildings in total with an 80-20 mix around them, but the
this
last
one-
two going up. This one's 100% affordable, the
100%
next one's
affordable.
100% market.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Jimmy?
I'm Jimmy Strachey. I live in Island House. I'm raising my family on Roosevelt Island with my wife. And we've been here about 13 years. We're here 13 years now. I'm also a board member at Island House.
Board member of what?
For Island House, which is the building next door going this way.
My name is Rick O'Connor. I'm the local press on the island. I published Roosevelt Islander, which has been going on for about 17 years. So I'm the local press.
I'm Faye Christian. I'm also a board member of the RIAC. This is my second, I've just been appointed by the governor. This is my second term. I have been away for 8 years, and I live on the island. I was among the first batch of appointed residents.
How many of the current members of the...
Pardon?
How many of the current members of the board live on the island?
Live on the island?
On the island, just 2 of us.
Well, no.
Members, right?
3.
Of the current members, we have 4 living on the
Oh,
island
yes.
and 2 ex officio
Out of 9?
out of 9. So
There
there
are
are
3
three
empty
empty seats. One I've heard is in process through the mayoral appointee, and 2 I understand are in process. I have no information about those.
Are any of them residents?
The one I know
Yes.
about
Town
is.
residents.
One
Is a resident, that none of the residents know about.
I believe they're both residents.
One.
Okay, I'm Margie Smith. I moved here in 1977, and I've been on just about everything. I've been on the Residents Association. I was vice president of the association. I was on the RIAC board, 8 years of a 4-year term, and I thought that was long enough. When I left, and I had to leave the River Cross board to go on it. So then when I came back, I got back on the River Cross board. That's this building. Yeah, I didn't see a lot of changes happening with the board. We never got the elected representation, and I kind of felt like I shouldn't be staying on there anymore if it wasn't going where I wanted it to go. And the fact was, so much of it is controlled by Albany that we really didn't have a whole lot to say about anything. But anyway, I'm going to keep at it. Joyce, why don't we go around the screen? You.
I'm Joyce Short, and I've lived on the island 3 months before the tram opened. I think that's 47 years. 48, going on 48. I've lost count. And I've been secretary of the Roosevelt Island Residents Association Common Council after Margie went on board, I became the government relations chair for the organization. I've run I think 3 out of the 5. There were actually 5 referendums that we held for the REOC board. I ran all of, for like 15 years. I ran all the elections for the community, for common council, but I also ran the referendums for putting people on the REOC board. I, for the past 33 years, have run the New York Junior Tennis and Learning Program on Roosevelt Island. And so far this season, we have, I think, 300 kids registered in the program, and it's free. We run it 6 days a week.
How old are the kids?
Anywhere between 5 and 18. And once they're 18, we hire them and we keep them going. We get them through college and lots of other things. I was also the associate editor for the Main Street Wire, which no longer exists now. But it's time to take over that function. And I'm the president of the building committee for the Roosevelt Island, for the land use building. Donna? Rick, I was also a founding member of the Roosevelt Island Community Coalition that helped through the ULUR process.
Got it.
I came to town about 25 years ago, and I think there was a large envelope when I hear you. 25 years ago, I worked at the UN, and everybody at the UN lived here, so I sort of followed suit. And it was a bedroom community for many years for me. And then I changed to New York Racing, where I was executive director. But this is a special place, and I love living here, and I've grown to love it. And then I worked for became elected as the vice president of the Roosevelt Island Senior Association, which was something I never thought I would do. And it was really interesting for me to finally get to know my neighbors and see the issues that are going on with seniors in this community. So I do feel really good being here, but I'd like to see a lot more done for the seniors of this community.
Okay, Lorraine?
Hi, my name is Lorraine Altman. I've also been on the island probably 25 years. My name is Lorraine Altman. I live in Island House, which is the next building over, and I've lived here about 25 years. I was a single parent. I guess I still am. Not a single sense. And anyway, and also professionally, I was involved with City University. I was dean of Ostos Community College, continuing education. On the island, I also got involved with Roosevelt Island Senior Association to put together different activities for seniors and an exercise program which we have had for years at a very minimal cost. And I just, and also I do, now I do exercise classes at the senior center. And I love this island. It's a wonderful place to live. I feel very blessed to be here. And, but the quality of life is very important to me. And I think we have a few issues on the island that do need to get addressed in that regard.
Okay, Judy?
I'm Judy Knorton, and my family and I moved here in 1978.
In relation to John Knorton?
Oh, yes. Yes. First John Knorton was deputy mayor.
Yes.
Yes.
I knew him very well.
Yeah. And at any rate, we raised 4 children in this building, and I have been, I guess, about 25 years. I worked as the architectural librarian at City College, and just really have enjoyed living here very much. That's it.
Vicky Feinbell. I lived here since the 80s, and with family members as well. And I was involved in the Maple Tree group, where we finally got elections for people to go on the board. And then unfortunately, after a few years, that ended. And a lot of it has to do with who was the president of REOC at at the time as far as communicating with the residents. You know, some were wonderful and we were able to express ourselves, and others are really not. You know, you could say what you want at a meeting, but then there's no response and there's no, you know, backup. And that's basically it. I've been on the Residents Association for many years, and things have, you know, it just got to a point that things just didn't change in the directions that we would have liked it to go. And some people are on the REOC board that for years now. I mean, they've been, you know, they were elected, but then they're like on for forever. You know, there's no other options. So I would, you know, love if something could change.
Let's go into the bleachers.
Okay, I was going to finish up there, but if you want to go back into it, David, why don't we start with you?
I'm David Andrews. 44 years ago, my wife Mimi and I moved to Roosevelt Island from our home in Texas. I came to New York to run Planned Parenthood Federation of America with Faye Waddleton. I did that for 25 years. And since leaving Planned Parenthood, I did some work with the International Planned Parenthood. And now I serve on the River Cross Board of Directors, and I run a private consulting business helping worthy not-for-profit organizations raise money. So we welcome you to Roosevelt Island.
Thank you.
Mimi?
I'm Mimi Andrews. I'm his wife, and we moved here in 1978, and we raised two children, two girls, and we have been very happy in here. It's a beautiful island to live, and it's safe in many ways. And what else can I say? It's beautiful. Yeah.
Christina?
Yeah.
My name is Christina Delfico, and the Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer, appointed me to serve on RIC, the Roosevelt Island Community Coalition, during the ULURP process for Cornell Tech, and community to work together, connect, and be good neighbors. I served for 20 years on Sesame Street as a producer. So you could say now I've gone from puppets to plants, and I run a nonprofit, I Dig to Learn, and focus on nature. We planted 100 trees up at Lighthouse Park, expanding the forest canopy, and we're working to help feed neighbors as well as value food and their food scraps for compost program, you know, from the earth back to the earth kind of thing. So thank you for coming, welcome, and it's a big deal to have you here. Thank you, and your staff.
Hi, I'm Andrea Jackson. I am the current president of the Roosevelt Island Senior Association. I came on board about 5 years ago as I guess, helping out, and I ended up president, and that was a nice tour. But I am a 35-year veteran from Wall Street. I moved here in the 80s back in Manhattan Park when they opened, and I was on the tenant committee there. I'm now living in Roosevelt Landing. And as president of the Roosevelt Island Senior Association, I've seen the transition. I have not seen any movement of any magnitude on the REOC board that is significant enough to establish the residents and represent these residents in the manner in which they should be represented. In fact, from my point of view, the entire board needs to be changed with the exception of the current people that are there so that we can have a new flavor. This is stale. It's stale.
Stale?
That's what I said.
On that note, Sarah. Tough act to follow.
Welcome, it's very nice to see you here. I'm Sarah Metsadakis. I am considered a baby on the island. I've lived here 14 years. I volunteer at Kohler Hospital and for the Senior Center and do whatever I can. And I'm here because I love it here and I would never leave. And it's just whatever I can do, I'd be happy to do. And I'm not going to produce my resume.
Eileen?
Oh, hi. I'm Eileen Sheehy, and I've lived here since 1977. And I raised two of my children. I only have two.
Both.
And I lived in Eastwood Roosevelt Landings when it was called Eastwood. I was there for many years. And then I finally got into Rivercross, the best building in the world. And I'm very happy to see you. Thank you.
Ian Cross, I've been on the Rivercross board for 28 years, lived on the island for 35 years. I'd like to thank Margie, she does these all the time. I remember a young Bill de Blasio being where you are right now.
I don't tell that.
Well, it was a young Margie at the time too.
Exactly.
And at the end, I'd like to know what your opinion was of Shelton Hayes. I know you met with him, so our president, REOC president.
Okay, Jane needs no introduction. Jane Swanson.
Hi, I work at Cornell Tech, and my name is Jane Swanson, and I am Cornell Tech's liaison to the Roosevelt Island.
And who did you used to work for?
Who did I used to work for?
Come on.
I used to work for Jessica Lappin and Research.
Thank
Yeah, and then I worked for Gifford before.
And
yes.
Yeah, Gifford
Gifford
Mills.
Mills.
Yeah. Okay, we'll jump over to Linda.
Hey, hi, I'm Linda Heimer. I came to the island in 1980, and I'm still not considered a pioneer. I have to be from way back. I was mugged on the subway coming to Roosevelt Island, and they started RISC, Roosevelt Island Safety Coalition. And with the help of Carolyn Maloney, actually, we got the annunciators and the cameras put up. It took 4 years, but we got all the annunciators and cameras put into Lexington Avenue and Roosevelt Island stations.
What year was that?
That was 1994. Yeah, 1994.
It was Carolyn's first term in Congress.
Yeah, yeah. Long time.
She and I were elected at the same time.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
I said he was in that way. And I was on River a number of years. I was chair of the Government Relations Committee. I was on MTG that you've heard about from many people, the Maple Tree Group. I was on the RIC board when Cornell came to the island. We went through the ULIP process. You've heard about that from others. I was on the editorial staff of the Main Street Wire for 22 years. And what else? Oh, I had my own executive search business for many years. I was a teacher before that, so I mean, I'm 80. I've done a lot of things. And thank you so much. You know, there's not too much, I don't think, that a federal representative can do for us. But I know if there's something, you will help us. You have a wonderful reputation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now we're going to skip you.
Oh, don't skip me.
Bring the FS.
I'm still Matt Katz. And I worked for most of my working career at the New York Academy of Sciences. I ran their local legislature. My wife and I moved here in 1989. We were members of the Resident Association for 15 years. Of that time, I was president for 8 years. Marjorie was the first vice president with me. And we've seen incredible changes in the island. Most of our issues, it's true, are state-oriented, local-oriented, but our federal representatives have made a significant difference in a variety of ways. Case in point, our tram used to be entirely local. It was paid for with pilgrims. And if you wanted to go to a subway or a bus, you had to pay another fare, because it was not part of the one fare, one road situation. We worked with government. It took us 2 years. We were on the MetroCard. Sometimes we win. Not too often, but occasionally. In terms of things that the federal government is responsible for, a case in point that comes to my mind is that there was a time when the post offices around the country were in jeopardy. They were being closed. One of the ones to be closed was the Roosevelt Island post office. Now this is insane. We are an island. We are a large quantity. We are a large demographic of senior people, disabled people. To close this post office would have been madness. The Resident Association put together 3,000 signatures. We gave them to Carolyn. She took them to the Postmaster General. Our post office still remains. These are the things that we can do. And when I said that we have 300 years of experience in here, I was not exaggerating. These are people who care.
Well, Carolyn was in a particularly good position to do that because she was chair of the committee that has jurisdiction over the post office.
Right. Funny how that
is that now?
Okay.
Grace, we need to know.
Grace?
My name is Grace Bernstein. I've lived on this island. I raised my children, and for a short time, my grandchildren here for over 40 years. I'm always a little, and of course I worked in some, but what always amazes me was when I hear from other people is the fact that we send money to Albany, much more than we get back. And then somebody will say to me, oh, well, the tram doesn't make money. But I don't think any public transit makes money.
Right.
What makes us different that we have to worry about that particular thing, whether or not the tram makes money?
Why do you have to worry about that?
Because we have to subsidize it. We have to eat the extra $1 million a year that they lose, plus we have to pay for the insurance, which
Who
is
does?
huge.
We are.
Our taxes, only on this island.
Only on the island.
Only on the island, doesn't come out of state funds.
Not our taxes, our land leases.
Our land leases.
So we're all paying.
Our ground lease.
So there's a lot of, I think that, not that money solves all problems, we know it doesn't, but that there's a lot of issues in terms of how the money is given to Albany and back to us when we're responsible for things that, from what I was told, and that other places aren't responsible for. Am I right?
Yes.
Such as the tram.
Something
Why is
happens to
that
the
even an
sea-
issue, that they should give us the money, because they give it to everybody else?
Something happens to the seawall on New York Avenue, it comes out of city funds. Happens on our seawall, we have to pay for it all.
And we were taken out of New York State's budget by, who was it? It was Pataki?
Pataki.
Yes, it hasn't been reinstated. There is not a line in the New York State budget for Roosevelt Island.
You have to be self-sufficient.
Yes. Whether we are or not, that's we just skim it.
And the tram gets charged to you.
And unlike I just refer to Battery Park City because Battery Park City has much more commercial money. You have a lot less commercial income, so it's made that the money to operate REOC is more on your apartments and your ground lease.
And we're an island too, so we have the tram that we have to operate in addition to all the other things associated with water.
We actually have a $30 million budget, and when Cornell came, they were only required to pay $400,000. They're going to increase
A year.
$400,000 a year, and a budget of $30 million.
But the state gave us some money.
No, they didn't give us anything. We sold them land. We sold land.
Okay, and in exchange for the land we saved that Cornell is on, they paid us.
They paid us,
it's a pilot.
And they specified that it's only for capital. It can only be spent for capital expenses, not operating costs. So the Roosevelt Island community pays all of the operating costs for this community. 30 million, right? Operating costs.
Operating costs, 30 million.
We have to pay for public safety.
Yes,
we do.
We pay for everything.
Yes, we do.
Does it get covered by New York City Police Department?
No.
They will call the New York City Police Department sometimes, but you have to understand that they're a real estate management company, and for them to report crime is a problem because it diminishes the value of their property.
So you're not part of an East Side precinct?
Yes, we are.
Our
precinct is the 90th precinct in Manhattan.
Our first responders are our public safety department, and they are not, and they're not forthcoming with the community. And Rick can give you a little bit more clarification on how lack of transparency we have with the public safety.
Also, our police state
Let's just go around and continue. We didn't finish.
Yeah, let's finish. And I didn't hear the last part of what you said, but the other thing with the police department, since they respond from Queens, but we're technically part of Manhattan. Right. So if they come over and arrest somebody here, the arrest goes to Manhattan.
Statistics.
They get statistics.
They
get
credit.
Same thing with the fire department. Okay, and Grace, you did not finish about your background. I think you want to say you're a retired New York State judge, no?
Oh, I'm an administrative judge. I work for the Division of Parole.
Whatever.
So that's what I did.
Okay,
for
Michelle.
20 years that I did other legal stuff.
And so far, she hasn't been responsible for any of our parole.
No.
Anybody's parole.
Well, I know about I know that there's a push, at least there was, I don't know what's happening now, not to report things because they wanted the crime rate to be lower here.
Yes.
I mean, this was something that was different. I don't know, that was years ago, I don't know.
It's very much still the same.
Michelle, last but not
Okay, I'm Michelle List. I was going to claim to have lived here the longest, but it seems that Kimberly and Margie and a few others beat me. However, I moved here at the time with a 2-year-old, and I moved here with the idea that this would be a wonderful place to raise a child, and it was. At age 5 or 6, my son could go out by himself and be safe. Today, that can't happen. It's not safe on this island, the way it was when I came here, anyway. And I'd like to see all that. It's such a wonderful place for children. And I want to see...
Why do you think it's not safe? What do you attribute that change to?
Public safety is paid and run by REAC with no transparency. Right. And
yeah, but that was 30 years ago also.
I think it's...
no,
it was definitely...
It was smaller. We all know.
A mother lets a 6-year-old out. He and all his friends could be outside and play and do their thing and come back up in the elevator, and none of us ever gave it a second thought. Now, I don't know too many young parents here, but now I don't think that's possible. I don't.
Okay, that's all the residents. We have 2 more. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you?
I'll go and then Hannah can go. Hannah, you want to go first?
I was leaving the best for last.